Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of my top 5 Dynasty stashes. The last 2 of these videos have gone over 2,000 views. Let's make it 3 in a row and jump into stash number 1. Trey Palmer. So Palmer has been consistently involved in the offense all year, but I feel like it's bubbled under the radar because Mike Evans has been really successful. Chris Godwin has come on lately. Palmer was a 6th-round pick, and for a 6th-round pick, he's done really well. In 16 games played, he's had 37 catches for 375 yards and 3 touchdowns, which averages 2.3 receptions and 23.4 yards per game. Now, he's played a majority of the snaps every week since week 3, at least 50%, and most of the time he's been around 70. And the Buccaneers clearly trust him. And they're in a tight spot cap-wise. Let's think about it. They need to retain Baker Mayfield or get a high-priced free agent quarterback because they don't have the draft spot to get one in the draft. So my guess is they're going to retain Baker Mayfield. Chris Godwin has a $27.5 million cap hit in 2024 with no out. They would save $1 million by cutting him. Mike Evans is a free agent. There's no way that they're going to be able to sign Baker Mayfield to what he costs, retain Mike Evans, and still have a team. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is they're going to retain Baker Mayfield and they're going to let Mike Evans walk. Because Evans has been so great this year, he's going to command a massive contract that they're not going to be able to pay. Therefore, Palmer is going to move up the depth chart because, yes, they will replace Mike Evans. They will get another receiver. But that other receiver, unless it's Marvin Harrison Jr., which is not going to be, or Malik Neighbors, they'll be long gone, is not going to be as good as Mike Evans was this year. So Trey Palmer will continue to develop, and I kind of like him going forward. He's someone I would stash on the back of my rosters. I know he's rostered in most Dynasty leagues, but again, a lot of these players, just because they're not on waivers, doesn't mean they're not stashes. Get them as throw-ins in trades and realize the value gain later. Next one, very similar, but kind of a different type of player, Dontayvion Wicks. Now, interestingly, Dontayvion Wicks has done more than Palmer overall, but it's come in a different manner, I would say. He was a 5th-round pick, and he has kind of similar stats, but again, we'll go into how it's a little bit different. So he's only played 14 games. He's missed 2 games due to injury, 33 catches, 520 yards, which is good, but only 2 touchdowns. The 520 yards is great on 33 catches. So we're looking at 2.4 catches and 37.1 yards a game, which is honestly great for a 5th-round rookie. The problem for Wicks has been that when all wide receivers are healthy, he has served as a change of pace wide receiver behind Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, and Romeo Doubs. And they also have Luke Musgrave. And now Tucker Kraft is good, which means that they might play some 12 personnel. It's just very crowded, and literally all of the weapons, everyone I just listed, is either from the 2022 or 2023 rookie class. They're all 2nd-year or 1st-year players. So their rookie deals run through 2025 or 2026, which means that they're all still going to be there for a while. All of the wide receivers outside of Jaden Reed, who I think has separated himself, Wicks, Christian Watson, and Romeo Doubs kind of had similar production when they've been the guy. Although, they've produced in different ways. Wicks has had more bigger plays. So the situation is kind of messy. But since these are all young players, there's no real commitment to one player over another. If Wicks is better, there's nothing guaranteeing Doubs or Watson positions ahead of him on the depth chart. I think that if everyone is healthy, and that's been a challenge for this team, but if everyone is healthy, Reed, Watson, and Wicks are the 3 best receivers, and Doubs to me is just a guy. So I would stash Wicks. 5th-round picks don't usually have 500 yards in their rookie year, so that's a player that has to be rostered in all Dynasty leagues. Again, like Palmer, throw him in on other trades. Now, similarly, I doubt that Israel Abanikanda is available on any waiver wires because he was a high-end rookie. I loved him coming into the NFL, but he fell to the 5th round, which kind of shocked me. I thought he was going to be a 3rd-round pick. Then he landed in the worst situation possible under general manager Aaron Rodgers, who directed the Jets to sign washed-up veterans like Dalvin Cook, Allen Lazard, there's a long list, Randall Cobb. Of course, Cook was recently released after doing nothing, zero, all year, nothing at all. The Jets focused on veterans, so they gave a lot of playing time to Cook. Michael Carter, before he was released, who was totally ineffective. But over the last 3 weeks, Abanikanda finally got involved as the RB2 after Carter released. Cook was benched, and now he's been released. Abanikanda hasn't done much, just had 15 carries, 54 yards, 6 catches, 38 yards over 3 games. Nothing special. But Breece Hall is an absolute workhorse under a cheap rookie deal at the moment. I don't think they need to make, they're not going to sign another Dalvin Cook. I think that Abanikanda is their RB2 and has the lead for that job going into 2024, which means he'll gain some value throughout the offseason, which is why he's on my list. And also because I thought he was talented coming into the NFL and deserved a shot. So if I think a running back is talented and, he's only one injury away from getting playing time, that's someone who has a lot of stash value. Now, here we have a kind of a different kind of stash. And I think Jarrett Stidham is going to gain value as people kind of move away from what happened in season and look more toward what's going to happen out of season. Okay. Stidham this offseason signed a 2-year, $10 million contract with the Broncos, ostensibly to back up Russell Wilson. There's nothing unusual about that contract. It's a very normal NFL backup quarterback contract that he signed. However, the Broncos, as I talked about in a previous video, benched Wilson for week 17 to protect against his injury guarantees. And when a team does that, that means they're cutting that player in the offseason. So that Wilson's almost certainly going to be gone. In week 17, Stidham put up decent numbers. He was 20 for 32 for 224 yards and touchdown. But most notably, the offense really didn't look that different with Stidham than it did with Wilson. It wasn't better. It wasn't worse. It was kind of the same. Now, the Broncos could cut Stidham this offseason and save $5 million, but I don't know why they would do that. They have no real path. They are the team who is quarterback screwed. Of all the teams in the NFL, they are top of the list to not have a real quarterback on their team in 2024. Right now, they are the 14th overall pick in the draft. That puts them completely out of the range of Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels. Those are not a possibility. Given what I'm hearing, they might not even be in the range of Michael Penix. They might be able to get him, but that's not a guarantee. He could be gone by their pick as well. The Broncos also don't have a second-round pick. So the cap hit from releasing Wilson is going to be massive, and it makes it impossible for them to start. They're not going to be able to sign Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield in free agency. That's not an option. So essentially, I think the Broncos 2024 is going to be a lost year for them. They're going to have to sign some sort of veteran to compete with Stidham for the starting job, the Jameis Winston and Gardner Minshew. Now, I would expect whoever the incoming veteran is to be the favorite, but Stidham could win the job. He's played decently when he's had a chance. That means he should be rostered in all Superflex leagues. And when people realize that he's in a quarterback competition this summer, his value is probably going to be a lot higher than it is now. So in case somehow he's out there, go and roster him. Last one. And this one, I bet some of you don't even know who Cameron Latu is. To enlighten you, he's a tight end for the 49ers. They picked him in the 3rd round this year, but he kind of had a quiet camp. And then he went on season-ending IR with a knee injury. To be honest with you, from what I heard about this knee injury, it didn't really sound like he needed to go on IR. It sounded like they just wanted to save the roster spot. It's important to remember what kind of player Latu is when thinking about this. He's a converted linebacker. He played linebacker in high school, came to Alabama, not a little school, Alabama, as a linebacker. Then he converted from 2018 to 2019 from linebacker to tight end. Took a while for him to get involved. In 2019, 2020, he did nothing after his 2018 redshirt year. But by 2021, he became Alabama's starting tight end. Again, not a D2 school, not an FCS school, Alabama's starting tight end. So he has to have been somewhat good in order to do that. Now, in 2021, 26 receptions, 410 yards, 8 touchdowns in 15 games. And then 2022, followed that up in his senior year, 30 receptions, 377 yards, and 4 touchdowns in 11 games. So Kyle Shanahan saw that Latu was a player that he wanted. He obviously saw some developmental talent there. George Kittle turns 31 in October. Now, George Kittle's been great this year. I'm not saying that the demise of George Kittle is imminent, but it is the age at which you look to develop a backup tight end long-term behind him. It's a good time to start building up that player. I'm not saying that Latu is amazing, but injuries happen, opportunities happen when you don't expect them. In deep dynasty, and I'm talking deep here, 25, 28, probably even 30 player rosters, Latu's worth a stash, but only in those very, very deep dynasty formats. Now, if you've enjoyed the video so far, make sure to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Those are the best ways to support views and all of that on the channel. If you want to support me, the best way to do that is through the Patreon. The link is in the top right corner of the video, also in the comments, and additionally, it is in the description of the video. So 3 places you can find that. Again, patreon.com/fantasyadvice. And how it relates to the YouTube is you can ask these advanced questions. I throw it in as a second segment on most of my shorter videos. You ask these advanced questions. You ask them either on the Patreon website or in the Patreon Discord. And then I will type them up and read them here and give you your answers. So only patrons get to ask these advanced questions. So if you're interested in hearing my video responses, which I'm about to do, please sign up. With that said, let's get into question number 1. I thought this was very interesting. At what point does draft capital stop mattering a whole lot for rookie wide receivers? I ask because I think sometimes managers delude themselves into believing that draft capital still matters a lot, even though we have new information from an NFL season to evaluate the year 1 wide receivers. So to answer the question, I would say after 3 years, I don't care. Draft capital is irrelevant. After 2 years, it still is something in the back of my head, as in, if it's a first-round player, that player's probably getting another chance in year 3. Whereas if it's any other draft capital, that player is probably finished. That player has probably had their chances and has failed. But yeah, I would say after year 1, Jackson Smith-Njigba, for example, the draft capital is why he is still extremely valuable. I know he's good. The draft capital says he's good. My eval said he was good coming into the NFL. I know he's good. He didn't have the draft capital. That would say a different thing about him. So yeah, I would say by the end of year 3, draft capital is gone. Most of the effect is gone by year 2. And then, after year 1, it's still very important to me. Then another rookie question: does your strategy change for rookie draft depending on if you're a rebuilding team or a contender / won the championship? So I'm going to say 2 parts to this answer. In terms of the players I pick, no. I always want to pick the more valuable players. Always want to do that. Every single time. In terms of how I trade during the rookie draft, of course, if I'm a contender, will I explore trading a mid-first round pick for Tyreek Hill? Absolutely. If I'm a rebuilding team, am I going to explore doing that? Absolutely not. So it affects my trading strategy, but outside of a very select few, I'm not relying on a rookie to be like game changer year 1 in fantasy football. There's a few players like that, but they're not many. So I'm always picking the best players if I'm picking rebuilder or contender. But in terms of trading, of course, my entire trading strategy is different, whether I'm a rebuilder or a contender. So I hope that helps give you some perspective on that. Now, I want to thank everyone for watching the video. Of course, like I said earlier, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Best way to support the channel directly. And of course, sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/fantasyadvice. You can ask these questions in advance. It's the best way to support me and my content. And of course, I don't say this that often, but follow me on Twitter or X at TylerFFCreator. All of my content gets promoted on there. So it's the best way to make sure you don't miss any of it. But until next time, I will see you all later. Peace out.